that's the way I am.
Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz Interview Series with jazz vocalist Allison Adams Tucker. It all started when she was born and raised in San Diego. She would go on to play piano, study flute, violin, dance, and voice in elementary school, and she holds a BA in Linguistics and Music Vocal Performance and an AA in Italian. She is on the heels of releasing 2016's WANDERlust, and her voice can be heard on national commercials and on the video game The Saboteur, and soundtracks singing French jazz in the company of Nina Simone, Ella Fitzgerald, and many others. She has brought the world her talents, and she has only just begun. So get to know Allison and dig this interview, my friends.
Thanks for taking a minute out for me. I appreciate it.
No worries at all.
So let's hop right in here and talk about WANDERlust. And it's been, there's all kinds of things that are going on here with melodies and lyrics from Brazil, Italy, France, Latin America. Talk to me about this album and how you feel about it.
It was about 3 years in the making from the moment that I met producer Matt Pearson, and he came up with the concept to production. He put together just a mind-blowing group for me, and that was probably the greatest thrill of the album, was being in the studio with these amazing world-class musicians. And probably the most challenging thing about the album, although I regularly sing in the 6 languages that are presented on the album, what I found to be a surprising challenge was our concept of the album originally was to lay down all 11 tracks in all 6 languages and have basically 6 albums available, one being the core album and then one in each of the languages available for any of those regions should distribution be made available for those things. And I didn't foresee how difficult it was going to be to record each of those songs in the studio. For example, I took one song and I laid it down in its original language, and then we recorded it in Italian and French and Japanese and Spanish and Portuguese. I didn't foresee how strange it would feel for my brain to just take the one song and go into the different languages, and how difficult it would be for me, even though I'm able to do them individually. It was just a very different feeling in the studio. It made me realize that when I'm singing in a different language, the same song takes on a completely different personality. It incorporates all different kinds of facial muscles and emotions and phrasing. It was a lot different than I had anticipated, even though I've been singing these songs. So that was a revelation during the process of WANDERlust. And during the studio time, I'm never, as an artist, I'm a perfectionist-oriented type of person, and as an artist in the studio, I didn't feel it was the best that I could do in the moment. And I think I've always felt that way, and I've talked to other artists, and they say, I wish I wasn't really in that zone that I'd hoped I could be in the studio. And those are fleeting moments. So you grab them while you're there, and you do with your emotions what you can, and with your abilities in the moment what you can. But, a year now after laying down those tracks and listening again, I hear it with different ears, and rather than being more critical, I find myself listening to the emotion and the nuances of my voice and what I did with the songs in the moment being better than I remembered when I was in the studio. So I thought that was a really interesting thing as well.
So you were born and raised in San Diego. Talk to me about your upbringing and how you got so multilingual and into music.
San Diego is a border town bordering Mexico, and in elementary school, I want to say kindergarten, I started taking after-school Spanish classes, and My father was really into learning Spanish. I remember when I was about 5, and he bought me a little book teaching you how to speak Spanish with little stick figure people and little word bubbles. And it was the first epiphany of the concept of a foreign language to me. I remember it. It was a moment in time that I can remember saying, wow, so that makes sense. I'm hearing these other languages around me. I don't know what these funny words that people are saying, I don't know what's going on around me. And then I saw this book and realized, wow, there are other languages that people are speaking and I can learn them too. And I was hooked. And I started taking after school Spanish classes in kindergarten. I didn't study any other languages until university, but then I studied French and Portuguese. I lived in Japan for several years and studied Japanese prior to moving there. And most recently, I took every class I could in Italian and got an associate's degree in Italian. And I think all of that was largely because of the bilingual presence here in San Diego. And San Diego is also largely an international city that has a lot of molecular bio scientists from different countries. We've got the tourism industry, which brings people from different countries. So I was exposed to people from all over the world from a young age, and I was bitten by that wanderlust, that travel bug.
So you've been performing since you were 5. Is it easy to say that this is in your blood, it's second nature for you to perform?
Absolutely. I think it was in my nature to want to entertain people from before that age. I was born to want to amuse, please, entertain, give joy to people. That's just kind of within my DNA, I think.
Wonderful. So talk to me a little bit about your higher education. You've spent some time, you learned Italian, linguistics, musical, vocal performance. What did you learn in a formal environment about being a performer? I mean, you've been doing it for so long. What did a formal education give to you that was key to your life?
I'm an educator as well, so I really believe in formal and casual education, constant education. I would say that the university years that I had, and I actually didn't finish my undergrad in one fell swoop right out of high school. I did a couple of years, and then I was in a band, and we toured in Midwestern states. I dropped out of college and went into music full-time back in the 80s. But with formal education, I would say that it gave me the discipline I needed, the organizational skills I needed to be an artist and in this day and age and be able to promote myself and organize bookings and interact with people in the arts that are not artists, that are looking to further an artist and get the music out there. So I think it was just more of, quite honestly, I didn't really hone my craft in university. I learned the basics and I learned music theory, but I was really not a happy student in those. I was going through a lot of things as a young person is, and I was very rebellious. The establishment was limiting me, I felt. But as I look back, I learned a lot about the things that that cannot be learned out of books, just from sheer discipline, that have helped me immensely as an artist, as an independent artist.
Speaking of that career that you have in being an independent artist, how do you feel about your career up to this point? You've been all over the world. You performed in a lot of prestigious places. had a lot of experience. How do you feel about your career up to this point?
This is my 10th year of being full-time in jazz. It was tax season. I just finished my taxes 2 nights ago. And that's always a very reflective time. You can take a look at the past 10 years and all of, from a numbers point of view, and the graphs and the charts that come up from it. And I can see what I have accomplished from the world's view. I'm always very thankful when I see that dollar amount at the end of the year, that I am able to do what I love, to make music, and that people, the entities out there, are happy to give me that amount of money at the end of the year when I see that total, that I have worked for that amount of money to make music. It's a very satisfying moment to see that at the end of the year. And I think as far as my career and how do I feel about where I am today, I have exceeded my expectations 10 years ago from where I thought I might be today. However, my expectations constantly change, and I think the only way that an artist can keep furthering themselves is to reach way beyond their means and be obsessed about it. And so my expectations just in the last couple of years have been much higher than where I am now, but I think that's just necessary to keep me propelling forward. I still have big dreams and big plans ahead, and I'm not giving up the fight at all.
Very nice. We haven't really gotten into who has been big influences for you in your career as far as albums you listen to and singers. Who have been really influential on you from the jazz world?
Okay, because keep in mind, I've been singing since, I can remember since 3 or 4 years old, and jazz is the last 10 years. And what I do is a jazz-inspired approach to music from around the world. And whether or not they call themselves jazz is another conversation entirely. But specifically in the jazz world, I guess the first influence would be that of my grandparents' music, and that would be Bing Crosby and Ella Fitzgerald, Carmen McRae, Joe Stafford, 1930s, 1940s, big band era when I was a kid. And then I left that. I didn't, give it much thought. It was just kind of the music that was played at home and the music that Grandma sang to us and Grandma sang to Grandpa. And so it holds a very dear place in my heart. But I exited that interest and went into so many other genres of music. And then, honestly, about 10 years ago, when I was reevaluating my life and getting back into music, I started delving into jazz, the history of jazz, from a research standpoint, see what really resonated with me, what I enjoyed. And interestingly, I went right back to Ella. But since then, gosh, the journey has taken me all over the place. So who were some of my major influences at this point? I guess Ella would have to be the top. I would say more contemporary artists from around the world, such as Eliane Elias from Brazil and Lila Downs from Mexico. Edith Piaf, her voice has always fascinated me. I don't think that she has influenced my vocal style, but she has influenced me emotionally in the way that I approach a song. Henri Salvador, originally from French Guiana, but moved to Paris when he was quite young. He is rumored to be the inspiration to Antonio Carlos Jobim and Vinicius G. Moraes of their epiphany of the bossa nova rhythm from his song Dan Monila. He was a big influence as well in his approach of, he said something once when someone asked him at age 90 how he was able to keep his voice going after all these years. He said, how can you sing so beautifully after all these years? And he said, I don't sing, I whisper. And I always thought that was something very profound in this day and age where we live with American Idol and The Voice, where bigger and louder and higher is better. It was a reminder to me to bring things way down and dynamics and nuance. It's so important.
So let me ask you a general question. Why do you love jazz?
The freedom of it, the unity that I feel with the musicians, and yet the independence within that unity to express myself in any way I see fit in the moment. I love the intellectual side of it. I love the language of jazz, not just the language within the performance aspect, but the language that I speak with the musicians and with aficionados to express our music. It's something that I didn't experience in rock and in punk and in classical. It's a very freeing experience, and I think it fits with my vocal tone, my vocal quality, and I like the lifestyle of jazz. I like where it takes me on a day-to-day basis.
Let me ask you this. Everyone has a version of who you are, your family, your friends, those that you sing for. But who do you think you are? When you face the day and wake up, who do you think you are?
Lots of ideas are spinning through my head. This silence doesn't mean I'm indecisive about that question.
Sure, I understand.
How to put them into one or two short sentences. I'm a lover of beauty. I'm probably more than a lover of beauty. I'm obsessed with it. Finding the beauty in each moment, in nature, in connection with other living things, people, animals. I'm very strong-willed. I think I get that from my grandmother. And that strong will is what makes me tenacious and propels me forward in life. And I think some people are strong-willed and tenacious and stubborn, you might say, and yet they don't care what people think. And I think that's a very freeing combination. I, on the other hand, am tenacious and stubborn and independent and know what I know and believe in what I believe, yet I care very much what people think, and therefore I am trying to please people and sometimes sacrifice myself a little bit in the process, but still very independent at the same time. So it's kind of a dichotomy that I find myself in regularly.
I like it. I think that's a great way to wrap everything up. Allison, thank you for opening up about your life and your music. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much. It was really an honor that you contacted me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to yet another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the globe, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Allison for her time, honesty, and all of those stories. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com. And for everything Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the music, my friends.
Neon Jazz.